We got to get into the Pac-12 Prime Picks here, JT, and I have that sulky tone because I've been struggling here big time off of an 0-3 week, 3 losing weeks in a row. I'm trying to get back up on the bike. I'm 3 games under 500 right now, trying to get in the mid 50s. Still got time to salvage it, but I got to hit some victories here. And let's start. These lines, of course, brought to you by Bet Online, which has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. So, first team that I am taking, and they're tough. There's only 4 games to choose from this week. I go 3 picks per week. I'm going to start with the one that I feel best about, and it's the only double-digit line of the weekend. And when I was putting together the show, lines can fluctuate and such, but Oregon State, just a shade under 24 points, 23.5. I really believe, JT. I don't think this is going to be an easy cover for the Beavs, but my final score prediction here is 28-3. That Oregon State defense has been playing like the best in the Pac-12 all around. And unlike USC, they're not reliant on turnovers in order to make stops. Against Power 5 opponents this year, they are allowing 360 yards a game, fewest in the Pac-12. The secondary's nasty. The front seven does just enough, but it is a no-fly zone on the back end. Colorado, coming off of their first win of the year, now they have to go on the road. Their offense has been anemic for the most part. They just scored 13 points against an okay Cal defense at home. I don't think they're going to get to 10. Maybe they'll get to 7. Maybe they'll have a few field goals and have 9, but I really think the final score here could be something ugly, like 28-3. The Beavs have their bye coming next week. They want to carry momentum going into that. I think that's the final score here. No Matt Ryan blown leads in the Super Bowl. I'm sorry to any Atlanta Falcons fans out there, but I think the final score is going to be in that range. Oregon State minus 23.5. On the surface, you might stay away from the only double-digit line of the week, but I'm going with the Beavs here.
I'm going with them as well for the reasons you just highlighted. And I'll even throw in this how we talked about earlier, how good Oregon State is at home. At home, basically
Yes.
almost beat
Great
USC.
point.
Was an offensive line push away from being able to do so. Then they go on the road with Utah, don't look as strong. But even in that, you talked about their defense. I'll even talk about their offense. They worked it into the red zone every single time, almost every single drive. They just couldn't convert in the red zone. But since then, they've gotten stronger, obviously gotten better as well. Nolan also, even though he threw a bunch of interceptions early in that game, Clark Phillips obviously had a fantastic
He won't start.
game.
He won't start again tomorrow. It'll be Gulbranson,
It will be Gulbranson again. Okay.
but again, that Colorado rush defense is terrible. Beavs can line up, good offensive line, good running backs. They can run the ball down the Buffs' throats.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they did against Utah as well. They just gashed them on the ground too. And you mentioned it as well, just going into someone else's house, that defense playing at the level it's playing at, that rushing attack, that experience of an offensive line as well. Going to give Gulbranson all day to throw. I agree. I think the Beavs win this one big as well.
Next one. Now, this is a fascinating game to look at from a betting perspective. Cal plus 7.5 at home against Washington. I went a little back and forth on this one. I went way back and forth on the next game that I've picked. I went back and forth on this because Washington is a much better team than Cal, but the Bears are coming off of a relatively embarrassing loss on the road. They are coming back home off of said loss, and Washington is clearly a much better team than the California Golden Bears. That to me and everybody else, I think, is obvious. However, I think Vegas is trying to get you to take Cal here while giving some respect to Washington, because Washington on the road against Arizona State was a 14.5-point favorite, and they lost outright. Washington on the road at UCLA, a 3.5-point favorite. They lost outright. The Huskies have been a different team away from home this year, and I don't love Cal's offense. I'm not a big Jack Plummer fan. I'm a big Jaden Ott fan, but Washington's run defense has been solid. However, the pass defense is just they're lost on the back end. They are struggling to stop anybody, and I think that allows Cal to score just enough points to cover. I'm Washington wins here, but I think this is a 31-27, 31-24 kind of game for the California Golden Bears. I won't be shocked if it's an outright upset. I'll be a little surprised, but I definitely think Cal can cover it with that 0.5-point hook. If it was 6.5, I'll go Huskies.
Yeah.
But 7.5, I'll go Bears here.
Yeah, you mentioned the half point. That is the big swing here. Look, I really like what I've seen out of Michael Penix. I mean, look at that 20 touchdowns, 4 interception, already over 2,500 passing yards as well. But
Jeez.
you mentioned this Cal team. They just seem to find ways to muck up these games, make things interesting. We know they can. They're at home for this one, obviously, but still being able to go on the road and play Notre Dame as tough as they did, that's still really tough to do across the country like that. Just speaks to the resilience of this team. And obviously, they're staying at home. They know the challenge that's coming in with this Washington team, so I can definitely see it playing out that way as well. I feel a little stronger that the Washington is going to be able to cover and win by that more than 7.5, but I could definitely see it this way too, just because of this Cal team and the way they seem to play and just really seem to play up and down to the level of their competition, just muck up these games, as I mentioned. But man, I really enjoy watching Michael Penix play football too. So I'd be happy if he goes off as well.
Yeah, he has slung it around really well this year. Certainly better than I thought he would coming into the season. Finally, I'm going to lean on you here, JT,
All
because
right.
I keep going back and forth. I'm staying away from ASU Stanford. Those two teams, it's just too unpredictable. I'd lean Stanford -3 at home, but I don't know, and it's all there. I kind of feel that way about UCLA and Oregon though. Now, I think Oregon wins this game at home, but that's 6. That's a big number. That's a big number for a good, well-rounded, mistake-free for the most part this season UCLA team on the road. My initial instinct was Oregon -6 because I'm saying it's under a touchdown. And I could see this being a 35-28 game that features a lot of points. But I think I'm going to go back to the Bruins here unless you talk me out of it because the rain is expected to come down. And I think when you have ugly games and you can't throw the ball around as much, it's harder to pull away. I think that lends itself towards a tighter contested battle between two teams that are both good and are both playing good football and both coming off buys. Oregon, I'm not going to pick against them at home until Utah comes to town in a few weeks, but that's 6 points. I think UCLA's won me over with it.
I could see it at the moment. I think Oregon's going to be able to get this one out, and I do think they're actually going to be able to cover. And the reason I think they will be able to is I just think that boost from the home crowd, the biggest game of Dan Lanning's career at home to this point. I feel like they're going to come out fired up, ready to go. Love the defense with Sewell the way they're playing right now as well, and I feel like they're just going to be able to rise up to the challenge of this game with the Bruins. And I will say, I think this is going to be high scoring, but I just feel like they're going to make one extra play at home with that energy that's going to sway things. This UCLA team can run the ball as well. So if it is inclement weather, as you talked about, this is a massive offensive line. I mean, I don't have their numbers of their left tackle next to me right now, but I saw the way he was just a man that big moving in space, the way he did against Utah. I was like, that's the first round left tackle right there for me. So Zach Charbonnet as well, obviously a phenomenal back. I think Bo Nix has been playing well, but obviously so is DTR. The star power in this game is what makes it so much fun. You get college game day going down there. I'm really excited for it. I just like Oregon because they're at home. And I feel like it's just so hard to stay undefeated in Pac-12 play. I feel like this is a real opportunity where UCLA could slip up here. So it's a very tough one to pick. Personally, I like Oregon. We've talked before, I like Bo Nix as well. And he's been playing well too. So I'm going to stick with him at the moment. But man, DTR is having an incredible year. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see UCLA go in there and get it. I'm barely even made up about it. So I don't know how I would change your mind, but
The home field factor is huge. UCLA's played 5 of their 6 games at home this year. This is the best team they've played on the road by far because it's only the second team, and the other one was Colorado, and we know Oregon is much, much better
they are
than
used to not having
the
fans.
Bucks. That's true. Unfortunately for the Bruins, that's the case. I think you make interesting points. I think I'm gonna stick. We're sticking with the Bruins +6. Oregon wins. UCLA covers. Your Pac-12 Prime Picks of the week. Hopefully we get back to our winning ways, but we're always winning when we get JT Wistrcill, host of Locked On Utes. Great to have you back on the show as always, my friend. And 6 more weeks of regular season college football in the Pac-12. What a time to be alive.
What a time indeed. It's going to be a lot of fun, especially just bringing this full circle if we get that matchup between the loyalists as well as the levers. Did I get it right?
Yeah, the loyalist and the lever. That's
Let's
that's
go.
what that's what we're hoping for. No matter what it is, a
Yes.
loyalist and a lever. That's what we're pulling for here on the show. And we're pulling for you to come back next week as well. Every day we're dropping content here on Locked On Pac-12. Appreciate everyone listening. See you next time. Enjoy the football this weekend, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your day.